The covariance formula is one of the most powerful measures that you can apply to two different variables. And this is because it tells you in a very easy way whether or not those two variables are moving in the same direction or in opposite directions. When two different variables are moving in the same direction, you see a positive value, whereas on the other hand, if you see the value being negative, it means that the two different variables are going in the opposite direction. This formula is very similar to the correlation, except it measures the direction as opposed to the strength of the relationship between the two different variables. So with that being said, in this video, I'm going to share with you how it is that you can simply apply the correlation formula in Excel in a really easy and very simple to follow way. Okay, so as you can see in this case, we have the specific data set that we want to analyze. In this case, we're looking at Apple, the stock, and we're looking at the open and the low price for very particular dates. So you can see the dates right here, and this is for the last 30 days. So if I click here, you will see how the data will refresh, and you can see we have the specific dates, and then we have the value for the open and the low. Now, our job in this case is to calculate the covariance between the open price and the low price for any particular day, and then to draw some conclusions from this information. So first things first, in order to really illustrate this, what we could do is select the whole data set, and for that you can just click on Shift or Control, and in this case Command, and then to the right, so right arrow and then down arrow, and then you will see how you select the whole data set. Click on Insert, and then after that, in this case, what makes the most sense is to have a line chart. And this, as you can see, allows us to see the direction of the data for this particular period in time. So as you can see, we start from 2023-09-14, and then in this case, we're going backwards in time. Of course, we can also change the direction of the data, but the key thing here is we want to figure out what is the covariance between these two different variables. And as I explained before, if the covariance is positive, it means that both of these values are going in the same direction. If it's negative, it means that they're going in the opposite direction. So if there was an instance where you saw, for example, the open go high and the low go low, like in this case actually, this would indicate that in this particular instance we have a negative value. If overall the general trend is that they both follow each other, which you can see in this graph, that's the case, then that would be a positive number. But let's, instead of just speculate, let's do the calculation itself. So in order for you to calculation, the cool thing is that on Excel you can access the covariance formulas very quickly. So in this case, we have two different options. We have the covariance P and the covariance S. The covariance P is for the whole population. What does that mean in this case? So let's say that we're trying to analyze Apple's stock price so that we could have an idea of what the stock price could be in the future. In that case, we're not analyzing the entire stock price for Apple from the time that the company first became public until 2024, because that data is not available. So we're only analyzing the last 30 days, which means that we're really just taking a sample of all the population of data that we could have gotten. So in this case, what makes sense to use is the covariance S. On the other hand, if we had the entire data set and we were analyzing a massive data set like that, then we could say that we have the entire population, and you would be using the P formula, the covariance P formula. So we click right here, and this is gonna give us the formula, and it's gonna tell us what data we need to enter into this particular formula. So it says array 1, array 2. So we just need the two different variables. So in this case, the array 1 is going to be the open, and then comma, and then the array 2 it's going to be the low. So we're gonna select that. And then after we do that, we are going to get the covariance variable, which in this case, it is quite strong. You can see it's 22, and it's a positive value, which means that in general, what's happening is that as the open is moving and is going higher, so is the low. and vice versa. As the open is getting lower, so does the low itself. As you saw in this example, the covariance measure, it's a really powerful tool in order to analyze two different variables. In this case, we just analyze the open and the low price for Apple stock, but you can analyze it for many different variables that you want to take into account, and the formula is the same. Before I leave, I just want to give you with two expert tips, and that is, first, if you can, it is always great to be able to plot the data so that you can see the relationship more closely for yourself, just like we did before in this part of the video. And then the second part is that the covariance for the population works exactly the same if you want to apply the formula, except of course that now you're going to enter covariance P, and then what you're going to do is enter the same data in the arrays, and then you're going to get a result just the same. So in this case, we get a value of 2130. So this is the value that we get with the covariance P. And before, I believe we got a value of 22. So there's always a small difference that you have to take into account. And why? Because the formula is slightly different if you apply the covariance to the sample than to the whole population. Now you know how to apply the covariance calculation in Excel, so that way you can use this to analyze different variables any way that you want, and most importantly, you really understand how this value works and how it can help you with your analysis. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications on, so that way you get notified every time we release a new video like this that's going to allow you to take your investing game to the next level.